Gringos y Gringos, and welcome to
Gringos Are Us.
Expats with a Plan.
I'm Mark.
I'm Gina.
This week, we got a special interview with a resident here in Oaxaca. Coming up next.
Welcome back. So yes, today we have a special guest with us. We have someone that you have seen previously before. It's Mary from Furry Tales of Oaxaca. Hi, Mary.
How's it going, Gina? How's it going, Mark? Hi, everybody.
So you've lived in Oaxaca for a long time. I think that our viewers might be interested in your experiences and why you came, how long you've been here, and the things that you've encountered since moving here. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Well, I moved here 6 years ago, but I started coming to Oaxaca in 2011. So I was traveling around, sometimes doing Spanish immersion in different countries, and ended up here. I moved here in 2018 from Seattle, Washington, where I worked for many years as a biologist. And so, yeah, I mean, the rest, I say about Oaxaca that it's a really friendly place. And I had this saying where I said I had, in 14 years in Seattle, I had less friends in 14 weeks in Oaxaca. It's just so easy to make friends here.
Yeah.
That we have found to be true in all of Mexico. The people here are just muy amable and very warm and open. And we basically have found whatever you give, you get about tenfold in return. And it's just been...
Yeah.
I agree.
You know, if you immerse yourself, you are so welcomed.
Yeah.
So why Oaxaca? What prompted it? What was the desire that urged you to move to Mexico and then choose Oaxaca?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I had gone to different countries, not with the intention of moving anywhere, and I really didn't even have that intention when I first came here in 2011. It's just that I said in 2011, I was like, why would I go back to the same place over again when there's a whole world to explore? But something pulled me back. And so I had been to one or two places, San Miguel and then Cancun area previously. Like I say, to vacation or go to a Spanish immersion class. And then after coming here for some time visiting, I established a community, right, which was easy to do, my 14 weeks or so. And I just loved it. And so I was ready for health reasons to leave my job. And this gave me a better climate for what I was going through. And it just kind of one thing led to another, and before I knew it, I was here.
You decided this was the way to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, did you come alone? I mean, you know, by yourself, and as a single woman, did that raise concerns, or did you have concerns about that?
Nope. No, I came with my 2 rescue kitties.
So you didn't come alone.
I didn't come alone, no. No, I didn't have any concerns about being a single woman down here. In all honesty, I grew up in New York, and there are times in New York City where I actually had more like, hey, chica, blah, blah, blah. I've never gotten that down here.
No.
There's a machismo element, don't get me wrong here.
Yeah.
But but I didn't ever have concerns about coming here as a single woman.
How do you feel about being a single woman in a country that tends to have crime against women?
And is basically very patriarchal. I mean, that's Mexico.
Yeah.
They're trying to change, but it's going to be a slow change.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would say that it's almost different sometimes in Centro when you go out to the pueblos. Like, so it's one of those cultural things you just adapt to.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can describe it. I know these things exist. I know patriarchal, or like women can be servants and all these things. It's not something I can't affect that change. And it is changing. So it's I guess the best way to describe it, it's like there are things that don't please me here, but there were things that didn't please me in the United States. So
Amen on that.
you just basically, you adapt to what you have to do. But I didn't have any fear. For the most part, I don't, I may get some like, wow, you're an independent woman doing this or something. It's also a lesson for them too. Like, yeah, we can function on our own. We can, we can run a business. We can run an organization. We don't have to just clean house and cook.
Well, and the other thing is, I mean, let's be for real. If the change is coming and it is occurring, sometimes it may not occur at the rate that we would like for it, but at least if it's going down the right road, whereas what we are seeing going on the other side of the border, a lot of us look at it and go, no, that's not good. And it's heading in directions that all of us are sort of going, whoa, hold on, people are just angry with each other and everything else. And that part was like, yeah.
Yeah, where are the servant women going to be in the future?
Yeah. So how long have you been in Oaxaca?
6 years. So actually December, will be 6 years for me.
Wow.
And it's, I will say that, so I live not in what is called El Centro. I just live outside, more of a kind of a local working class community. And I think it's, people know me. The thing about that community is you walk down the street and, there's a mechanic shop, there's this shop, and, so I'm part of the community now. Maybe it was strange initially for me to be down there for them.
The Gringo and the...
Yeah, but it's like, I feel comfortable. I know if something were to happen to me, they would all stand up, and take care of me.
Once you chose Oaxaca, what, for the people who are watching, what do you find the biggest draws of Oaxaca are?
Yeah, it's interesting because why did I keep coming back in the first place, right? So the walkability, engages community, right? It's just easier than I think about when I lived in Seattle. It's like I had to get in my car. It was raining. It was dark. I had to find a parking spot. I had to walk to a restaurant. Did I leave? I go to my car to get back and go home. Here I run into the people on the street. Mm-hmm. One of the real, people, the locals ask me this, the cab drivers, right? Like, what do you like about Oaxaca? And it's like, the people.
Yep.
Number one, the people. They're just warm and open. It tapped into, there are values that just resonated. So there's all about relationships. There's time given for relationships and less for possessions.
Yeah.
And so they can have very little and they will be just so happy. And it's nourishing to the heart to see that.
Family is everything.
Family, friends, party, engage, share stories.
And not missing what you don't have. I mean, be thankful for what they do have and go, life is good.
Yeah. And then they're very adaptable, they're very adaptable. So it really tapped into some of these values. It's not, I tell the story over, it's not the best story, but in San Miguel, just as an example of the Mexican culture, I was in an immersion there, and the woman that taught the cooking class at the school was where I stayed. I happened to be celebrating one of my birthdays down there. I was there for maybe 10 days total, and my birthday fell on the 6th or 7th day. She threw a party for me. Invited the classmates, had her kids come an hour and a half away, baked a cake, made a dinner. Wow. And the point about this is I remember thinking, like, I'm looking at the kitchen and there's some broken tiles in the corner.
Yeah.
My American self would say, you gotta fix this place up. And the Mexican person was like, we're having a party because Mary's here and having a birthday. I mean, it just kind of captures like the different values sometimes.
What is a priority over another?
Yeah.
For sure.
Of course, the food here doesn't hurt either.
The food, the climate, the art, there's tons of art. There's so much talent. There's so much talent here. As you probably know, walking around seeing murals and you're like, I can't even get a stick figure in Pictionary to the right proportions, and they're doing these incredible with shading and shadowing. And the graphic arts, you go to the symphony, and there's like very little ego with the arts. You go to the symphony, and they're like, "Hey, Jose," and they're like, "Hey, let's go out for coffee." It's not like and this is my talent, and you're not. It's like it's just so down to earth.
What are the biggest challenges that you've faced living in Oaxaca?
Well, it's kind of quiet here right now, but it's a very noisy country at times. So I've kind of become a little bit noise intolerant. I happen to have a bar behind me, so I'm not very fond of karaoke, and that's why I have to live with that at times. There are issues. There are issues about it's better now, but there are times that there have been garbage strikes, garbage in the streets, and they dump the garbage by the river. There's just environmentally, it's really challenging. The rivers here, they're dry, they've got trash in them, so it's hard to see, and maybe that'll change over time. You're aware that this past spring, it's the hotter season. There's a time when we don't get a lot of rain.
Yeah.
There was no water. And that's not just Oaxaca. I mean, there are places you probably heard in Italy and Spain and so many in Mexico City. So there are challenges with water, how resources are used. And so noise and some of those challenges come to play. You deal with them, but who knows how it's going to change with climate change over time.
This one gets into the area that a lot of people get really weird about, and that's because a lot of the US media and things like that love to paint Mexico as being a dangerous place. Whereas once you live here, you realize that there's not a whole lot of difference this side of the border to that side of the border. There's good spots and there's bad spots. So, if you encountered crime here in Oaxaca, and have you seen it increasing, in recent years?
Yeah. I love the question that I get sometimes from people in the US, like, do you feel safe down there?
Oh God, yes.
And I'm like, well, I don't fear going to the movie theater. I don't, if I had kids that went to the school, I don't fear that they wouldn't come home because of, what's some of the crime that takes place in the United States. It's different kinds of crime. So generally, I feel safe. That said, things have changed since the pandemic. I think I felt a lot safer prior to the pandemic. And I did get robbed in 2020 on the street at Knife Point. It's street crime. It's taking your phone, trying to get some money and things like that out of you for the most part for the Gringos, the extraneros. There's another situation down here with feminicide. There are crimes that, there's street crime, there's crimes for property. I have a scooter, I have a bike. I don't leave it too long in any one place. So, generally speaking, I feel safe, but crime has increased quite a bit here, but I don't think it's any different than most places where it's just changed.
No, I think the world's changed post-pandemic,
Yeah.
And I actually had to have a conversation with a person about 30 miles outside Detroit, and she was like, Mexico's dangerous. You're 30 miles from Detroit. I said, I'm not living in Tijuana and I'm not living in Juarez. I mean,
Yeah, it's hard because the world is quite different right now, and I think it's just manifests in different places at different times, and so
Sure.
yeah. So there's more crime. There's definitely, I would say that for years the word around town was, okay, stay away from this place, and this place, and you'll be a
Bastos.
good Abastos, Cerro Fortin, the stairs, and then for the most part you're okay. And so did I know, a handful of people over several years that had gotten robbed on the street? Yeah, but they were in most of those places.
Right.
Now it's like I know many people that have gotten assaulted or robbed on the streets. here and even in Centro, and it doesn't have to be at 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the morning.
No,
It could
even in
be
Centro,
when
where
I,
all the tourism is.
yeah, yeah. When I got robbed, it was 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon.
Broad daylight.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's fast. They're taking advantage of situations where they could do something very quickly. And, I'm sure there's an economic component that is triggering some of the desperation to make them do that.
Okay.
True of everything, follow the money, because that's normally where the root of everything comes from.
So crime is one of the things that you've seen that has changed since you arrived in Oaxaca. What other changes have you noticed?
The other thing I've noticed is a lot of people that are moving here, that post-pandemic, the digital nomads. When I first started coming here, and the people that I knew that moved here, maybe they were, older in age, not just necessarily like the digital nomads. A lot of them came down, and I see that they had this altruistic, nature to them. They wanted to kind of engage and immerse in the community. And a lot of times they started organizations, Libros para Pueblos, Oaxaca Learning Center, right? The Oaxacan Street Children. They were like, I want to, it's an impoverished area, I want to help. What I've seen more lately is a movement or, posts in Facebook, et cetera, about, and they're much more frequent. I want to move here, but I want to be in this neighborhood or that neighborhood where the expats or the gringos are focused. It saddens me because, as I just spoke about, and in being with these warm people, these cultures, and all they have to offer, go out to the pueblos and just talk to the people that are making rugs or ceramics and pottery, and you'll just hear stories, and it's so rewarding. It's one of the best things about Mexican culture.
Enriching.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so I don't come down here to just isolate and drink mezcal and do your job and raise your kid. Be a part of the community. So what I have seen is, there have been a couple of protests, like anti-gentrification, because the rents have gone up because more people move here. Oaxaca's been written up all over the place for how great it is. More people move here, the rents go up. The locals can't live here anymore. They basically, I felt more resentment in the street. And most people, like, I have a circuit, I can walk around, so it's a walkability thing, so they see me. But do I often feel resentment now that I never felt? Yeah, and it's because their lives have changed as a result of the influx. So it's like, I guess if people want to move here, there's pros and cons, but please just engage. I'm one of the best. I love this, and I forget this when I go to the States, but there's a tradition here. You walk in, or you see somebody, especially in your neighborhood, you walk into a store. You never walk into a store and say, hey, do you have Coca-Cola or something? You say, buenos dias. You always start with a greeting.
Yeah.
You walk into a restaurant, you buen provecho, is this community acknowledgement, and I hope that we keep that for the people that start moving here, that they respect that, they respect the culture, because it's, other than that, it's like, then we're divided, right? And then we're like the gringos and the locals. But it wasn't like that, and I hope we can integrate as we come down here.
Well, and if anybody's gonna change, let's change to the way the Mexican culture, because it's a whole lot more polite and friendly.
Yeah.
It's hard to go wrong with that, with saying good morning to somebody, and they love to smile.
Yeah.
And that's a great way of beginning any conversation, is a hello and a smile, and okay, we started on a whole different foot than.
I want something.
Yes.
Do you have this?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Give me this.
Yes. Yeah.
So, for people who are considering coming down to try out Oaxaca, what time of the year? We have found when the rainy season is, but what is the best time of the year to come down and experience Oaxaca?
Well, if you're a tourist, what would be the best time?
The snowbird typical tourist season, and partly because it's the weather's crappy in parts of the United States, is starting September, October through about February into like the early part of March. The climate's really nice. You get some cold nights, but it's usually sunny. What people don't realize is that they think that the summer here is the hottest, the typical summer in the United States. We're still in the northern hemisphere, but it's starting towards the end of March, and once again, things are changing. Starting towards the end of March, it's a dry season, but it gets more humid, and it gets hotter, and it gets uncomfortable. So, end of March into when the rains start, they could start coming in May and June, and they could be strong storms. What you experienced here was atypical. I often said that I can count on one hand the amount of days that have been rainy or cloudy for the entire day. So when the rainy season arrives, it's like, oh, anywhere from 2 o'clock on, it can change. Oh, there's this storm coming in. It could be electrical. It's going to downpour. You caught a bunch of hurricanes, both coasts.
We timed it just right for that.
I've never seen it where it's like cloudy and rainy for 10 days or more than 2 days, if that.
So to that effect, if somebody was considering checking out Oaxaca as a potential resident, what's the best time for them to come down?
Yeah, let me just go back up to the visitor. I mean, I think also people come down here during the winter months, but actually, July, August, September are actually nice months here, borrowing the hurricanes that are coming in from either side, which we get rain, but it just was perpetual rain. For people, I think this applies anywhere. Come down during the different seasons. So yeah, you can come down here in December or February and go, oh my God, I was there for 3 weeks and it was like 82 degrees and sunny every day. And it was just like, that's the way it's gonna be year round. And then you're here in April and May, you're like, oh my God, it's so hot. So if you could come down several times during, you can come down in the winter months, but hit the rainy season, hit the hot season, so you know what you're in for. I live in a house, and this is very typical. There's no heat and there's no air conditioning
I was just gonna
because,
bring that up.
yeah.
This is not a region that has that typically.
No, it's changing,
Yeah.
There are some changes and mild changes compared to some of the effects of climate change in other parts of the world for sure, but
And
yeah.
like if you needed to have air conditioning, you could get it,
Yeah,
but then your CFE bill might be quite high.
the electric bill, yeah. Yeah,
Well, conversely, if you want to run a space heater, that eats up.
It does.
I for 6 years, I can walk around in shorts and a t-shirt in my house for most of the year, and then you get some cold nights. I think it's gonna get down into the 40s sometime next week. Yeah, you're under a comforter. I wake up, I put sweats on, socks, and within 2 hours, I'm starting to like, oh, I'm not hot, but I'm just like. It's never for too long. Although the locals, you have to laugh because the locals there's about a 15-degree range that they're used to, and it's like, and yeah, there's one that's like hace calor, and then a little bit low, it's like hace frío.
Coffee coats.
Yeah,
I've seen that.
and I'll just add that one thing to be concerned about is. With the changes in the climate and what other changes might cause this, there's always been dengue here, and so it's not a disease you want to get. It can kill you. It does at times, and it's worse if you get it. The more often you get it, but right now it seems like it's under control. Back in May, June, or whatever it might have been, it could be here for maybe 9-10 months out of the year. It seems like they've tamped it down so that I don't see as many people, but 4 or 5 months ago, it was, you talk to somebody, it's like, oh, I know 5 people on this block that have dengue and this. And so it is a concern dealing with that disease or other diseases.
And so that also will dictate times of day that you go out, the types of clothes that you wear, if you're using pesticides.
Yeah, it's, I never applied DEET, but I had, my shorts and t-shirt became sweats and long sleeves. The mosquito, I've never enjoyed killing so many mosquitoes with electric racket. It's an obsession. I'm trying to work and it's like I can't work because I know either you get me or I'm gonna get you. And
Yeah.
you could be a disease, carrying dengue. And those dengue mosquitoes it's a subspecies that are out during the day. It's not so much at
It's not the
nighttime.
twilight ones.
Even just anecdotally, the ones I kill, I look at all of them. And so that's the subspecies that has dengue. They're out during the day, and when I kill them at night, that's not the same ones.
Okay. That's
No, there's still a
interesting.
dead mosquito.
It's still a dead
Yeah.
mosquito. They're still, yep.
How are your language skills? And I mean, did they improve since you got here? And if someone were to consider Oaxaca, is Spanish a necessity?
I wouldn't call it a necessity. It depends on your comfort level. There are people that are here that, don't speak much Spanish, and they get around and maybe they're not interacting with the locals as much. I mean, there are bilingual people here for sure, but there are a lot more people that have no English. So you'd feel more comfortable if you had some basic skills to navigate and get around and ask questions and, accomplish things. I'm challenged. I'm probably intermediate, at best. And so I can carry on conversations and I can ask things, but I can also understand one person, pretty much what they're saying and 80% of the words and then and then another person who's speaking more colloquially, mumbling a little bit or different things, and I'm like, I don't know what you said.
Or speed. I mean, some of them
Speed.
get very rapid, and all of a
Monday.
sudden,
Yeah.
Monday?
Monday, yeah.
Puede hablar, hablar más despacio, por favor.
Yeah.
It's just becomes so rapid that it's like,
Yeah.
oh, hold on, I'm still trying to catch up on the first 3 words, and you're on word 14 or 15, and
You speak
Yeah.
Spanish very well, though. I've
yes,
listened
if that's
to you.
intermediate.
I know. I know. You make me
Uh,
wish I could speak as well as you do.
It takes time,
So-
So one thing I'll say about that is like if you're gonna come here, live here, just take Spanish lessons because there's it's gonna be good for your brain. We know that. And B, it gives you an opportunity, to engage and learn more about what's going on in Oaxaca. I use that opportunity with my Spanish teacher for, what is this? Why is this parade? Why are they doing this over here? And you get to learn from them.
And you're
So it's
still
not
taking
just you.
Spanish classes.
Probably
as
take
long
it
as you
first.
can.
It's the typical rate down here is 300 pesos an hour. It's really not that expensive. And some people do it online, some people do it in person, but there's more value than just learning the language. There's getting exposure to all things Oaxaca, all things Mexico, or the Latino culture.
Well, and if you truly want to immerse yourself, you have to be able to have some communicative skills. Otherwise, you're standing on the outside, and you're getting the visual, but you're not getting everything. And so you're getting maybe 15 to 20% of the entire experience instead of being able to totally grasp what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're an inquiring mind, you have an inquiring mind, learn the language.
And what kind of advice would you give to someone who is considering moving to Mexico and even Oaxaca?
Do your research, do your investigation, come down, pretend that you're living here. What you want to do is you need to know wherever you decide to live that it's going to work for you, right? If I wanted to move to X place and I decide to just do that, and then I get there and I'm like, wow, I don't like this at all. Wouldn't you have liked to know before you moved there? So you do your research, you investigate. I would, come down here several times, immerse yourself. If you like certain activities, go and do those activities. If you like art and you want to engage more with art or you want to engage more with sports, try to do them here and see how much Spanish is, not knowing Spanish is an impediment to actually engaging in those things.
True.
Yeah, because if you don't want to learn Spanish, there are places in Mexico that you can live, i.e. San Miguel de Allende, anywhere on Riviera Maya, where you can throw your hands up and go, I'm not going to learn, and I can live quite easily in those particular areas.
Yeah.
But if you want to experience all of Mexico, then yeah.
And it's the other thing is, and it goes back to my, fairy tales work or just in general, that whole, how it's really underrated how much you get from, if you can volunteering in the community and working for a cause, because you'll be forced to use your Spanish skills, although if you don't speak Spanish, they will communicate somehow with you. You'll know more about the culture. You'll be, and this is the thing that's key, when you do something like that and you volunteer, you're volunteering around people that actually are living from the heart as well. So you're automatically, you can go to a book reading, and I'm all great to go to a book club, but when you do something like volunteering for a cause, and there are people here that feed the migrants, people that help the street children, you name it. There's a great organization, I'll put a plug in for them, Envia, that, you can volunteer for Envia, that they go to the pueblos and they give microfinance loans to women. And then the women have to tell their story about how much they were helped and what they did with their loans. Wow. And so it's a really good program. But my point is, it's if you actually, it's a great way to engage with the community, to get know more about the culture, hear people's stories. Stories are incredible. And you will be surrounded by people with a good heart.
Anything else that you could think of that, might inform our viewers?
Yeah, in a word, it's like showing respect.
Yeah.
And it's it's easy to say that, come to a culture and show respect, but once again, people don't realize how much you get rewarded by doing that, because, those smiles and that positive energy have an influence on you. And then I guess I'll just add that one of the, I came down here and, I'm in Centro, I'm hanging out with my friends each time and, taking in some things. And then once I started going out to the pueblos, it just opened my eyes even more, because, you go out to, a lot of the pueblos are known for some specific craft. Mm-hmm. And so talking to those craftspeople, it's you could pull off on the side of the road to have Nieves ice cream and sit there and have Nieves with the person, and you're there for another hour because you're just somehow conversing. Oh yeah, my husband's not here today because there was a wedding, and you just and he's got to cook all this meat, and you just gotta, it's the stories, you live, you get a glimpse into what their life is like, and you learn from it.
Well, I want to thank you so much for sharing a realistic view of what it's really like to live in this city and in this country. I appreciate you sitting down and sharing your time with us.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Thank you for the...
And the best part is like Mary just got done saying, we learned by having this conversation with Mary. We were enriched, and hopefully you guys all got something out of it as well.
All right.
Great.
Thank you.
So that's going to do it for this week. We hope you got a lot out of it. We are Gringos Are Us.
Expats with a plan.
And remember, we're doing it. You can too. And up there are more videos you might... Wow. No, they went right through the crack. Anyway, more videos you might want to see.
Oh no. Hasta la próxima.
Adios.